Stitches gripped the arms of his chair and squeezed his hands so tightly that his skin was in danger of splitting, sending several of his knuckles flying around the cabin. His eyes were clamped shut and his lips were pursed tightly together. His feet were involuntarily flexing up and down like a drummer hammering on the pedals to a pair of bass drums. "Why do we have to fly? I hate flying. It's not natural. There's no way this much weight should be able to get off the ground." Ollie stopped reading his latest copy of The Moon and rested it on his lap. "Well, I'm sure that if a plane can get a load of Americans into the air, then this one should have no problem. Besides," he continued, a bit annoyed at having his reading interrupted, "it's the quickest and most convenient way to travel. It was either this or spend 5 days on the ferry, and I don't think that would have been very pleasant, what with Flug and his seasickness." "I would have taken that over this," responded the zombie, shifting in his seat. "At least on a boat you could go outside and throw up into the water without bothering anyone. If I let rip in this confined space, it'd suddenly seem a hell of a lot smaller." Ollie picked up his magazine again and flicked it straight. "The only thing we have to worry about if you let rip will be the dust clogging up the air vents. Anyway, I don't know what it is you're worried about. Statistically speaking, air travel is by far and away the safest mode of transport." Stitches opened one eye, which glared at his half-vampire colleague. "You're kidding me, right?" "No. You do know who the pilot is, don't you?" "I hadn't read the crew list, no. I'm quite happy in the knowledge that they wouldn't let a total stranger into the cockpit just because he felt like giving flying a go." "Well, be that as it may, I checked. It's Hamish McHaggis. When he was alive, he was the worst pilot ever to have been in the Royal Air Force. The only thing he ever flew successfully was a toy helicopter. And he's on record as being the only pilot ever to have been shot down before getting into his plane." "Some kind of aviation expert now, are we?" "No, I just like to do my research, especially when I know I'm going to be getting into one of these infernal contraptions." Once again, Ollie put his soon-to-be out-of-date periodical down, resigned to the fact that he wasn't going to be able to finish reading the Vampires, Pillaging Ancient Mythical Beast or Effeminate Overcompensating Closet Homosexual article. "Infernal contraptions," he laughed. "You sound like a pensioner. You'll be telling me next things were a lot better before all these newfangled changes. I don't know what you're worried about anyway. Everyone on this flight is undead. If anything happens to us, it'll be of entirely no consequence." "That's easy for you to say. All you have to do is turn into a flying mouse and flap off into the moonlight, whereas I and poor old Flug here will be scattered over a rather large area. Right, Flug?" He elbowed his vast travelling companion in the ribs, hoping to elicit some kind of response, but it was a futile gesture. Flug had his headphones on and was caught up in the middle of watching the in-flight movie, a remake of a certain space-themed film that probably can't be mentioned due to legal reasons. The film that Flug was watching, however, an affectionate and inspired reimagining of said unmentionable film, can. It was called The Vampire Bites Back, an uplifting story in which the handsome hero, Puke Piehoarder, at the behest of his tutor, the ancient and sageous Yodel, travels across the galaxy to face his father, the evil and tyrannical Lord Harsh Trader, in a ferocious battle bidding to deny the destiny enjoining Trader, running a very successful second-hand spaceship empire. It was a blockbuster of epic proportions that had won 4 lectors at the recent Mortuary Awards. Flug didn't actually have a clue what was going on, of course. It was only during their recent trip that he discovered that there weren't little people living inside the magic TV box, and that you didn't have to stand outside looking up at the heavens to watch Sky Sports. Still, at least it was marginally better than the poor excuse for entertainment they had to endure on the outward journey. It was about a mafia don who was confined to a wheelchair, and when all was said and done, it didn't matter how convincing the actor or how grisly the torture scenes as he slaughtered his enemies and took control of his territories. There is nothing in the slightest bit intimidating about a character called the Quadfather.